Hi, I'm Tamara Lackey, and on this episode of reDefine show for Adorama TV, I have a fantastic conversation with Luke and David Edmonson, both major international award-winning photographers, about the creation and striking success of their father-son partnership. And we dig into their extraordinary photography lineage, dating all the way back to shooting in the thick of World War II. Check it out.
Adorama TV presents the reDefine show with Tamara Lackey.
Hi guys, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you for joining me here today.
It's a privilege.
So we have father-son duo.
I'm the father. I'm
You look
the father.
amazing.
Thank you.
I actually say, Luke, I am your father.
And he's the only one.
And that works.
That works.
But you also have, and obviously we're going to talk about some of your incredible accomplishments in a second, but you come from a serious multi-generational lineage of photography. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, about the 1300s, the Pope started up this.
Fast forward.
Okay. Why don't you start with your side of the story?
You know, I'll start with my dad.
Okay.
My dad loved photography. I think he got his first camera when he was 14. And
what year are we in right now?
we're in the 40s.
In the 40s.
And he, well, actually maybe even late 30s.
Okay,
Early,
wow.
early 40s, but because World War II started up, all of a sudden he was called into the military and as a photographer, and was stationed in Hawaii.
He was at Pearl Harbor.
And
When the attack happened too?
uh-huh.
Wow.
And he was he fell in love with this woman in Dallas, and he didn't know how to. He had never met her, but they write letters back and forth as things to just encourage the enlisted men.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it was very normal. Like women would write all sorts of men, not necessarily somebody you were romantically involved. You just did it to encourage people.
Well, my dad fell in love with this woman, but he used his photography and his creativity through photography to woo her.
Nice.
So he actually made 16 millimeter movies and 8 millimeter movies and sent her pictures. And if she sent him a little picture of herself, all of a sudden he would superimpose where he's dreaming about her.
Yep.
Oh.
And the irony of all that was that her brother was also serving as a combat photographer. He happened to be stationed in the Pacific Theater. He was on Admiral Nimitz's staff, made 17 amphibious landings, and so in his
17 amphibious landings. That means the boat coming in.
That means the boat coming in, and the irony of what it means to be a combat photographer, especially during World War II, is that was the only way to get news back. It was like the reels that would play at the movie houses beforehand. That's how you got information. So when you made amphibious landing, you were the first ones on the beach. Everybody else got down in foxholes, and you were the one supposed to stand up and record the action so that we could have it for historical purposes. And I've talked to him about this. He's since passed away. You develop a sense of invincibility.
Yeah.
Why it is that a bullet hits one person, he lost his sound guy standing a foot next to him, and other times, nothing happens to you.
Right.
It's just a unique perspective of experiencing something like that, and we're very thankful for what he's done.
Yeah, we're even watching people be decapitated, prisoners of war, and being able to shoot it but not do anything about it.
Yeah, that would be very, very difficult. So your family was, your grandfather, and then also on the other side of the family, but in the family, was the uncle.
Sort of. It was, so it's my grandfather and my great uncle. So it was my dad's mom's brother. So therefore it kind of was always on that side of the family, as opposed to my mom's side of the family.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. And then do you find that seeing that, because you've seen a lot of the photography, right, that they've produced, was that an influence on your work?
Do you know, I was probably too immature when I was young to realize the impact that it had on me. I think as I get older, I realize the influence that I had and really didn't take advantage of or appreciate.
Yeah, isn't that kind of how it goes?
You started out wanting to be a painter.
I did. I wanted to be an illustrator, and it was in college that my professor said, why don't you just take one photography class just so you can shoot reference art. And of course, first day in class, I was hooked,
Yeah.
like so many.
And then were you influenced then by your dad?
I was influenced in the sense of I grew up with my father being a photographer.
Right.
And, photography gives you permission to go places you have no business to be and to do things you couldn't do otherwise.
And he is a
I
rebel.
like that line.
So I grew up in it, and it's kind of like Mr. Miyagi for those that still remember The Karate Kid. But I learned these things, but I didn't necessarily have a desire to do them. It's just what our family did, and it was a chore. And it wasn't until I was at university, and I had started off with the whole idea of I'm going to go pre-med, because then like the rest of the adults stop asking questions, because you figured your life out, and they'll go on to somebody else. But that really wasn't my heart. And I came to my dad one day and said, you know, I've never expressed any interest in art. I would also add this. I think parents, without intending to do it, give their children each fiefdoms. Somebody kicks the ball and they say, oh, you're the athlete. Somebody sings a note. You're the musician. Like, you want to give them all areas of certain honor. And my sister was the one that was honored in our family as the artist.
The artist.
Yep. So when I expressed an interest in art, that was more about me realizing I would not be well-rounded as a person. I felt that there was going to be a hole. And he said, absolutely, you have permission to do this. I had no idea where it was going to go. I got my degree in film.
I was so glad, because that was my world.
Yeah.
And I did not know the world of medicine because he was going pre-med.
Right.
So when my degree was in film, it was purely because I still wanted to be able to do something in art, but we were still needing to differentiate ourselves. And that was important to an immature version of like 21-year-old Luke.
Yes.
And now I can say I'm absolutely happy to not only work with my father, but also to work for my father. So.
He got his degree in film so his pictures would move.
Yeah, that was the differentiation. Like his were still and mine moved, and that was an important distinction.
Yeah.
Right? It's just kind of silly.
And how did you get into specializing in certain weddings, like specifically? Tell me what the distinction is: Indian and South Asian weddings.
Well, we do Indian, South Asian, and then we also do, you know, I don't know what type of weddings you want to call them, but we do nice weddings in both the Dallas area and then, you know, around the world.
But that kind of work kind of really stands out, like that.
It did. I didn't know about weddings. I thought of old school weddings. I did not know how much money you could make doing a wedding. In fact, when Luke said, let's do weddings, first I said, gag me with a spoon. And then I said, how much can you make from a wedding? $300?
Wow.
Luke said,
no, you could make 1,000.
Absolutely. So the perspective on us is we're known for photography in different groups for different reasons. His background is in commercial photography, magazines, books, CD covers, annual reports, and he has a long and storied career within that realm. Within all that, I had come to start working with him, and in the commercial world, it's very hard that they'll hire 2 photographers, right? And we had a weekend where one of our annual report clients sent him to the East Coast and me to the West Coast. And I came back from that and I said, Dad, I don't feel like we're doing what I was hoping we were doing when I moved back to town to say, let's do this photography gig together. And he said, I don't know how to do it. Like, not in the commercial world. And I said, well, what about weddings? They're starting to change. This was in 2001.
You get $1,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, yes.
Yes.
And so he said, you know what, if you want to take that side of things and build that and grow that, then you can. And so now there are certain parts that know us for our wedding photography, and there's also certain parts that know us for our creative portraits.
Right.
So. Yeah.
And when you say creative portraits, I mean, you're obviously winning incredible amounts of awards year after year after year. Will you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind doing that kind of work?
I will. You buy the images from China for $4.
Then the awards
then you just have to map them and send them in to
whatever
WP.
you wanted to say on them.
So interesting how you pull these elements together.
I would say the distinction about what it is that we do is that we know why we're doing it before we start. And that leads us to the how and the what.
Like the intentionality of it.
Intentionality, exactly. We have a purpose already in place, so the actual execution of it becomes secondary, which is the challenge for most people to figure out in terms of creativity.
Thanks so much. Join us here next time on Adorama TV for the continuation of that conversation where we dive deep into the influence of old masters and the painting of light. Don't forget to subscribe to Adorama TV while you're here.